Hello, my name is Isis, and I offer tutoring in study skills and English and literary analysis and other subjects here on Wyzant. And today I have a question about analyzing Ralph Waldo Emerson's poem, The Concord Hymn, and Transcendentalism in standardized tests. So let's get into it. So the first question asks, which of the following is not a transcendentalist belief? And in order to answer this, we need to have a basic understanding of transcendentalism, which was a movement that formed in response to the hyper-rationalism of the Enlightenment in the 18th century. So it was very idealistic. It was influenced by Romanticism and Platonic ideals and Immanuel Kant, and basically believed that it believed in the divinity of the universe, that everything around us has a spark of the divine in it, and that everyone can access that if they're just sort of given enough room and enough time and enough education. So in order to answer this question fairly straightforwardly without needing to think too hard about it, we just really need to find which question doesn't fit in with that idea of like access to God. Okay, so the first option is all people have access to divine inspiration. Yep, this sounds like a transcendentalist idea. B, God gave humankind the gift of intuition, insight, and inspiration. Absolutely, this is totally a transcendentalist belief. Nature is divine, therefore humans cannot understand it. No, no. If nature is divine and humans are part of nature, then humans can understand divinity. That is definitely the transcendentalist way. So C is not a transcendentalist belief. And finally, D, spirituality can be defined in a new way that is less rationalistic. Yes, this is something that the transcendentalists believed in. So letter C is the answer to your first question. All right, so next we've got the text of the Concord Hymn. We are not going to read it. We don't need to. This is like basic test taking, like standardized test taking skill. You don't read the whole text. You read the question, you figure out what keyword from the text do I need to find, and then kind of what context do I need for that keyword. And then I can look at my possible answers out of the multiple choice and determine kind of what direction I need to be looking for my answers. So this first question says the word conqueror in the Concord Hymn refers to A, the British, B, the embattled farmers, C, the rebels, and D, the American colonialists. We don't need to read the poem. We need to think about what is this poem about. So if you don't know this poem right off the bat, here are some clues. You're given the title of the poem, The Concord Hymn. The first stanza, if you like skim, the first stanza ends with the line, and fired the shot heard round the world. And then you look at the options. Like you could even skip that line in the stanza and just take the title, the Concord Hymn, and the options that you have. The British, embattled farmers, rebels, American colonialists. What is this poem about? It's about the American Revolution. Something about the American Revolution. And if you caught that line of fired the shot heard round the world, then you know that this is a poem that's about that first battle in the American Revolution, where the British and the Americans had been trying not to shoot, had been trying not to fight, and finally somebody did, and that was when it all started, and the whole world knew about it, right? Okay, so who's the conqueror? It's the British Empire. It's always the British Empire. It's like useful shortcut. Okay, next question. We set today a votive stone is an example of apostrophe, metaphor, hyperbole, or symbol. So to be able to answer these kinds of questions, you need to have a good grasp of your $5 words and of your literary terms. So first of all, votive stone, what could that mean? So when I think of the word votive, if I don't know what it means exactly, I think of a votive candle. So it's like a candle special kind of like fat candle that burns for a long time in a glass jar, and it's usually set in front of some kind of like religious iconography. The idea being that you light the candle, and then the deity that is represented in the icon or the statue or whatnot is sort of enticed to pay attention to the person who is lighting the candle and to listen to their pleas a little more carefully. So a votive stone then, by that logic, would be a stone that is sort of inviting attention from God. Okay. Um, so when I think about that, and then I can, like I said, we grab the keyword and go back and find the context. So we set today a votive stone is in the third stanza. On this green bank by this soft stream, we set today a votive stone. That's all we really need right now. So some kind of stone that's being set on the bank of a stream. Okay. That memory may their deed redeem. Oh, shit. This is like a gravestone or something. But that's all we need. Okay. I keep saying that's all we need, but I keep bringing in more information. Anyway, so it's some kind of a gravestone or a monument or something. And the Concord hymn was actually written to commemorate a monument that was raised or to honor the dead of that first battle in the American Revolution. Okay, so now we look at the literary terms. So I'm going to skip apostrophe for now, because what I want to do is I want to pick out the things that I know right off the bat that I don't even have to think about. Metaphor and hyperbole and symbol. Okay, I know that hyperbole is poetic exaggeration. I know that metaphor is sort of an extended symbolism. It's like a cloud of symbolism where like everything in the cloud, like where you're comparing two things, but like there's like lots of ways, there's lots of correspondences. So like the giving tree, like saying that like a relationship with somebody's like a tree, and so there's like, the roots represent this, and the leaves represent that, and the fruit represents this other thing, and that's a metaphor because it's like complex and it's extended and it like keeps going for a while. A symbol is a one-to-one correspondence. It's the single thing that always means the same, that single image or the single person or whatever, that always means the same thing throughout the story or the poem. So that leaves us with apostrophe. And if we don't know what apostrophe means, the way to remember it, I guess, is that in grammar and punctuation, an apostrophe is the little mark that we use to show that we've left a letter out, right? That there's something that's been taken out on purpose. So like aren't or I'm. We're using the apostrophe to show I took out the letter O or I took out the letter A. And in literary analysis, an apostrophe is where the speaker is talking to someone who is not there on purpose. So it could be like a prayer, like praying to God. If somebody is praying to God out loud and God is not there because God, the apostrophe is that like the other person, or like when Juliet says, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? Romeo's not there. She's not talking to him. And Shakespeare is leaving Romeo out of the scene on purpose. He's using apostrophe so that we can get like a glimpse into Juliet's sort of inner life. So she can talk out loud and think out loud, and we can get a sense of who she is and what her thoughts are without the added like complexity of having Romeo actually there in front of her. So that's apostrophe. And apostrophe actually shows up later in the poem in the last stanza, but that's not this, and apostrophe is not the answer to this question. So I think your answer here of we set today a votive stone, your safest bets are either a symbol or a metaphor. But a votive stone is just a symbol, and it's actually explicitly a symbol. It's a monument that represents it's there to honor the death and the spirit of the soldiers who died for the freedoms of Americans, right? At the beginning of the American Revolution. There's no big cloud of symbolism. It's not a metaphor, it's a symbol. Okay, last question. In the phrase, bid time and nature gently spare the shaft we raise to them in thee, time and nature are used as symbols, being personified, used as similes, or examples of apostrophe. So, first option, time and nature are used as symbols? No, they're not used as symbols, because if they were used as symbols, Emerson would say something like ornate about clocks or trees. Time and nature are themselves in this line. So it's not symbols. Second option, B, being personified. So personification is when we treat something that is not a person as if it were a person. It's like the inanimate object version of anthropomorphism. So when I don't know, when your cat meows at you and you're like, stop yelling at me, you're anthropomorphizing the cat. If you um, trip over your like backpack and say, well, why did you decide to sit there then? You're personifying your backpack. Um, so that's a possibility. Personifying time and nature is a possibility. Letter B. Letter C, used as similes. Remember that simile sounds like similar because similes use like or as. There's an explicit comparison between two things. It's not like a metaphor. Remember the cloud of symbolism. You don't need like or as when you're using a cloud and everything corresponds to other things. Simile is um, um, like saying that somebody's hair is like fire. Then that's a simile. Okay. And then D is examples of apostrophe. And here's that tricky term again. And this is definitely a trick question because it looks like apostrophe. It looks in this stanza like Emerson is talking to something that's not there, but it's not time and nature. Look, he says, Spirit that made those heroes dare to die and leave their children free, bid time and nature gently spare the shaft we raise to them in thee. He's not talking to time and nature. He's talking to spirit. This is a prayer or a command. It's an entreaty to Emerson's idea of God, okay, that is present throughout the universe. He's saying, Spirit, you that made those soldiers be willing to die so that their children could have um, free lives. Tell Spirit, you tell time and nature to leave this monument alone, to not erode it, to not cause it to crumble, and so on. Leave this monument alone because we're setting it in this spot to honor those soldiers and their spirit and you, right? So the apostrophe is about spirit. It's not about time and nature. He's telling spirit to do a thing to time and nature as if they were persons that could change their behavior by being told what to do, which tells us that actually the answer to this question is B, being personified. So there you go. Some thoughts on transcendentalism and analyzing the Concord hymn. I love these questions. I think this is so fun and so interesting. So let me know what you thought about my answer, and if you have any further questions, and get at me if you want some more help uh, in a longer period of time with your own homework and learning literary analysis. Bye for now.